Ladig, a name soft and lyrical, like a wave curling back to the sea, holds the kind of mystery that doesn't need to shout to be heard. Tucked away in the Seychelles archipelago in the heart of the Indian Ocean, this island seems to belong more to legend than to geography. The name itself traces back to a French ship in the 18th century, yet the island feels older than that, like it's been here since the Earth first dreamed of paradise. Ladig is small, just 10 square kilometers, easily overlooked on a map. And yet, the moment you arrive, by boat, with salt in the air and the sun painting the sea gold, it feels infinite. There are no cars buzzing past you here. People move on bicycles, sometimes even ox carts. They don't race against time, they move with it. The land is a sculptor's masterpiece. Imagine giant granite. Some to conquer, some to cultivate, some simply to live. Vanilla plantations, coconut groves, and colonial architecture still stand as memories made of wood and stone. They speak of hardship and resilience, of lives lived close to the land. The descendants of African slaves brought by French settlers still form the cultural heartbeat of the island today, their Creole language, food, and music coloring Ladig with a rhythm all its own. And among all this, there are stories, the kind that don't live in books, but in the eyes of old fishermen and the lullabies of grandmothers. One such tale tells of a ship called L'Espérance, which disappeared between Praslin and Ladig during a storm unlike any before it. They say the ship carried not gold, but something more, an object tied to the ocean's moods, an artifact said to control the tides. Since then, strange sounds have been heard at sea. Lights flicker under the waves. Some swear that on foggy mornings, the silhouette of the ship appears near the coast, waiting to be seen, or perhaps warning to stay away. Even science has questions it can't answer here. The boulders, too perfectly carved, too mysteriously placed, have confounded geologists. Underwater, near the coral reefs, divers have recorded harmonic hums, long, deep tones, like songs from beneath the earth. No known marine life can produce them. Theories swirl like the currents themselves, but answers, like so much on Ladig, remain elusive. Yet it's not just stories or secrets that give this island its soul. It is also the people and the creatures. This island is a sanctuary, not just for those escaping the rush of modern life, but for life itself. Nowhere else on Earth does the rare Seychelles paradise flycatcher live, a bird of such haunting beauty it seems imagined. Deep blue-black plumage, long ribbons trailing behind it in flight like brushstrokes on the wind. Walk through the Veuve Nature Reserve, and if you are lucky, or maybe chosen, you'll see it. Near the mangroves, you might spot a giant Aldabra tortoise, ancient and slow, blinking at you as if remembering the days before humans came. Fruit bats flutter above. The trees rustle with geckos and insects that exist nowhere else. Beneath the waves, the coral reefs explode with color. Fish like floating jewels, turtles gliding like old spirits. The island's most famous son, Andrew Jean-Louis, dedicated his life to preserving these wonders. A conservationist by title, but a guardian in truth. Thanks to people like him, Ladig has kept its wild heart beating strong, even in the face of rising tourism. Still, the island has not remained entirely in the shadows. Filmmakers, artists, and even royalty have found themselves drawn here. It's said that Prince William once walked these beaches in anonymity, enchanted by the simplicity, the silence, and who could blame him? Because the beaches here aren't just stunning, they feel enchanted. Anse Source d'Argent, often hailed as one of the most beautiful beaches in the world, doesn't just live up to its name, it surpasses it. Smooth granite forms colossal sculptures against shallow, crystal-clear waters. The sunlight dances through the leaves of palms, casting moving patterns on sand so soft it could be mistaken for silk. But don't stop there. Venture further, to Grande Anse, where the waves crash with wild abandon. To Anse Marin, hidden away and reached only by those willing to climb and crawl. These aren't just beaches, they are living postcards from a world that refuses to be tamed. And then there is Digue, the eagle's nest. Climb to the island's highest point and look out, over the lagoon, the reefs, the other islands rising like emeralds from the sea. It is here that one understands. Ladig is not small. It is vast, not in size, but in spirit. As you descend from the hill and cycle back along the quiet roads, you realize something strange. It's not that Ladig takes you back in time, it's that time itself feels irrelevant here. Days are measured not in hours, but in tides. In the number of smiles exchanged, in the way the sky melts into the sea at dusk. Ladig doesn't demand your attention, it invites it. And if you listen, really listen, you'll hear it. Not the roar of a city, not the buzz of the modern world, but the soft, timeless voice of an island that remembers what we've forgotten. That nature is not a place we visit. It's where we belong.